Imagine deep, dark tunnels where ancient spirits knock on the walls, warning the living to stay away. But when greed forces the miners to dig deeper, they wake up something that cannot be killed with a gun, something that turns water into fire and men into ash. The story continues from where the Hellblazer detective Constantine previously saved Liv, the daughter of an old friend. Thanks to her psychic abilities, the girl predicted supernatural events and marked them on a map so John could deal with the rising darkness. A small town in Pennsylvania. Most locals make their living mining in the shafts that have fed these lands for decades. One evening, a contractor returns home and complains to his wife. All the workers are quitting. Strange sounds underground frighten them so badly that they refuse to go down into the mine anymore. While the man takes a shower, the water suddenly turns into black crude oil. Before he can react, flames erupt and burn him alive. Soon after the tragedy, Constantine arrives in town. A young woman sits in a cafe, sketching his portrait while muttering questions about who this mysterious stranger is. When she steps outside, she comes face to face with him. Seeing him in person, a woman named Zed literally freezes in shock. Constantine glances at her sketch and sarcastically suggests she drew him just to strike up a conversation and steal his wallet. But it's different. Zed has been seeing this man in her dreams for a long time, so she's not about to let him go easily. Constantine, completely unimpressed, calmly pokes out the eyes on the drawing. In the sunlight, his real eyes gleam with a cold light, the gaze of a reluctant hero who's seen far too much. When Zed looks up again, Constantine is gone. And yes, she actually did steal his wallet just as he predicted. Having rid himself of the persistent stranger, Constantine heads to the local bar to investigate the recent fire. After a couple of glasses of whiskey, the miners share an old rumor with him. Years ago, a mine accident claimed the lives of 9 workers. People claimed the company dug too deep, almost as if trying to reach hell itself. Back then, strange knocking sounds echoed underground, and now a demon has burned the contractor alive. Hearing this, Constantine immediately heads to the mine. Pressing his ear against the cold stone, he actually hears an ominous knocking somewhere deep below. Suddenly, the ground shakes violently, and he has to run for his life. Constantine then visits the contractor's house right during the funeral. He sneaks inside and starts examining the scene when the widow notices him. Posing as a reporter, he casually mentions the coal dust on her hands and asks a few questions. The woman admits she was naive when she got married, never realizing how dangerous her husband's work was. She wouldn't have married him if she'd known beforehand. Then, she strangely grabs Constantine by his tie and tries to seduce him. When Constantine coldly rejects her advances, she angrily throws him out. At the exit, the contractor's workers block his path. Hearing they're dealing with a reporter, the mine owner orders them to search the uninvited guest. Constantine quickly drops 2 of them, but the third manages to land a punch to his face. This time, Constantine stops pretending. He states outright that he's an exorcist investigating a supernatural incident. But the mine owner doesn't want panic spreading among the workers and immediately kicks him off the property. Returning to his motel, Constantine discovers that Zed is already waiting for him in his room. Seeing that she's damn persistent, he doesn't chase her away, but remains cold and distant. Everyone around Constantine suffers sooner or later. That's why he pushes everyone away without exception. However, Zed believes in her visions and insists their meeting was destined by fate. When Zed touches his hand, she instantly feels Constantine's overwhelming guilt, grief, despair, and loneliness. All those emotions that constantly push him forward, never letting him stop. Recognizing her strong psychic sensitivity, Constantine decides to use her gift. He pours crude oil from the fire scene directly onto her palm, and Zed instantly feels searing flames. In her vision, she also notices a giant cross. Constantine leaves Zed behind and heads alone to an abandoned church on the outskirts of town. As predicted, he hears strange sounds inside, but it turns out to be just a couple who snuck in for a romantic rendezvous. Constantine is speechless at the absurdity of the situation. However, on his way back, he notices a strange occult symbol on the wall. He uses his own blood to activate the sign, speaks an ancient incantation, and a dark, sinister figure emerges from the shadows. That same night, Zed goes to the bar and strikes up a conversation with a man at the next table. He was once a pastor, but after his son's tragic death, he left the church and now drinks to dull the unbearable pain. His son died in last year's mine accident. The two of them drink until dawn. When Zed returns to the motel, she finds Constantine lying on the couch. Ever since he returned from the church, John has begun to trust Zed's psychic abilities and offers her to join his team of exorcists. But Zed refuses. Constantine finally introduces himself properly. Zed tries to explain her situation, but she doesn't trust him enough yet to reveal all her cards. Their argument is suddenly interrupted by an alarm siren. The mine has collapsed. When Constantine and Zed arrive at the scene, the workers have already been evacuated. Everyone insists they heard ominous knocking right before the collapse. Constantine gets into the foreman's truck to question him in detail. The foreman explains that years ago, this deposit was considered completely depleted until a large mining company showed up and somehow made it productive again. Constantine understands. They reached a place where humans should never have gone. If the mine isn't shut down immediately, things will get much worse. Suddenly, the truck doors slam shut and lock on their own. Black crude oil begins filling the cabin, and a blackened, dead hand rises from the thick sludge, trying to drag them to hell. At the very last moment, Zed opens the door from outside and saves Constantine, but the foreman dies before her eyes. On the way back, Constantine explains what's happening. The knocking and the black hand are the souls of dead miners trapped underground between worlds. They knock to warn the living of danger. These spirits aren't malevolent by nature. They can't manifest on the surface and don't want to hurt anyone. But Constantine suspects someone is forcibly controlling them and turning them into killers. They return to the bar to gather more information. Zed remembers the pastor she drank with last night. Constantine wonders, could a grieving father be manipulating the spirits to avenge his son's death? Zed sits in the same chair the pastor used yesterday evening, and her psychic vision activates. She sees a waterfall and a campsite in the woods. After questioning the bar regulars, they learn the location. It's a campground not far from town. They race there by car and indeed find the pastor. After confirming his identity, Constantine begins reciting a banishment spell without hesitation, but the pastor casually completes the formula for him. He knows perfectly well why Constantine is here, but insists on his innocence. After he abandoned his faith in God, he lost all his spiritual power, and spells no longer work for him. But the pastor reveals an important clue. Every victim was a major figure in the oil business, and the only one still alive from management is the company's main owner. Meanwhile, the mine owner, who stubbornly refuses to believe in the supernatural, takes his son down into the mine to personally check if all these rumors are true. The spirits attack them in the darkness. Fortunately, Constantine arrives in time and uses a spell to calm the enraged ghosts and reveal their true nature. The owner dies at the hands of the spirits, but his son survives, a small mercy in this bloody tragedy. After saving the boy, Zed begins to understand more deeply what Constantine actually does. The tension between them eases, and in the finale, the pastor blows up the mine with dynamite to permanently close the cursed place and avenge his son. That same night, Constantine visits the contractor's widow. He notices that the coal dust on her hands, which he saw during the funeral, is identical to the dust on the dead owner's body, a clear sign of spiritual interference and dark magic. The woman doesn't even try to hide anything. She summons the miner's spirits to attack Constantine. She once studied gypsy black magic from her grandmother. Although the spells never worked before, her powers recently grew so strong that she was able to kill her competitors and claim the mine as her own property. But she forgot one critically important fact. Her late husband was also a miner. Constantine summons his spirit specifically, and he grabs his wife with a death grip, dragging her underground to eternal torment. After her death, all the other bound spirits also find peace and disappear. Unlike Liv, who got scared and ran away, Zed isn't afraid of danger. After everything she's witnessed, she firmly decides to join Constantine's team. As for John himself, exhausted after completing the case, he completely ignores Zed's speech and simply crashes to sleep. He knows perfectly well that an endless multitude of problems awaits him ahead, and he needs to rest while he has the chance. But the darkness never truly sleeps. What creates are waiting for John next? Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode of the Constantine Saga. Thanks for watching.